Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to BlueVerse podcast. My name is Ramesh Revuru, and I'm the host of this podcast. I am the global engineering head of BlueVerse at LTI Mindtree, and I have someone extremely distinguished as a guest on the podcast today. I have Kaylin Voss, who's the EVP of Sales, Agent Force, Data 360 at Salesforce. A warm welcome to you, Kaylin.
Hi, Ramesh. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast. If I can request you to share a bit about your background, your experience to our listeners, viewers, that will be really great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, I have been with Salesforce for about 8 years. I currently lead our global distribution go to market teams for Agentforce and Data 360, as you mentioned. And this wasn't a team just over a little over a year ago. We've really formed this global go to market team to help drive successful value and consumption out of both Agentforce and Data 360. So I've got a lot of insights into the skills required, the go to market motions to deliver on our customer success. And previously, before leading our global data and AI sales teams, the specialists at Salesforce, I was Slack's global chief revenue officer and loved that job. If you think about the importance of understanding consumer grade technology that is conversational, that doesn't make you think. That was Slack, and bringing that to Agentforce and Data 360 we know is important. So I did that previous to this role. Before that, I had roles across Tableau to really understand how we lock all the value of enterprise data, and then core, what we call our core roles at Salesforce, leading our team. So I've been from the application side to the data side to the work operating system side at Slack, and now over at Agentforce and Data 360. I think those perspectives have been a unique culmination to really understand across data, apps, the operating system, the UI, the UX, what's really needed for the success of Agentforce and Data 360 for our customers.
Amazing. Such a diversified experience that you carry, Kaylin, and it's indeed our honor and privilege to have you on the podcast today. A big thank you once again for accepting our invite. So, if I can dive into the first topic for our listeners and viewers, we recently did a press note around digital employees, and our belief is that while agents cater to a single task, a single skill, typically employees are multi skilled, they can perform multiple different tasks. And hence, we're talking about this concept of how do you bring these different agents and conceive it as a digital employee.
Hmm.
I know Agent Force plays a prominent role in helping customers build their agents, but the workplaces are, in our opinion, and in what I've heard from you as well, are
Mhm.
moving more towards this hybrid environment of human plus digital workers coexisting. So
Yeah.
I wanted to hear your perspective on how is this space evolving, to what do you anticipate could be the changes that we might see at the workplace in the context of this hybrid collaboration between humans and digital employees.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When you look at the changes that are taking place, the humans being in the loop, the humans using agents as a superpower to allow them to unlock so much more is a common theme. But what we are not seeing is this complete replacement. And I'm sure many people have seen the recent, I think it was the McKinsey survey that said just under 12% of tasks can be replaced by agents. But the key thing there is the task. It's not the overall job, because to your opening points, it was there's a job is a lot of different tasks to be done. And so when we look at the transformation that's really happening, there's a couple of things. It's the shift of what software used to be was a tool to now into this full goal orchestration. And companies who are seeing the most success are those who get this mindset from their employees of how to be an agent boss. And what do I mean by that? Right? Like, how do we bring in agents, think about the workloads we want to unlock, but just haven't been able to because we've had these physical capacity limitations historically. Now, I think to myself, how cool would it be before I'm doing a global trip to Paris or Amsterdam or Tokyo or Sydney that I spin up one of my agents to say, hey, what's happening in the market? Who are the top competitors? How are we winning? Who's winning most successfully? Pull this together. But it's not just the insights that agents are helping us then unlock, but then, okay, now pull together the briefs, arrange the meetings for me, help me meet with the top 3 performers in that market, and then schedule those to meet with the top 3 underperformers. And I think in this shift where we start seeing these agents not as just a simple tool, but this unlock for all of us as agent bosses, it's as much as we can imagine. The teams that are the most successful are who are figuring out how to do that into all of their existing processes. So I, Ramesh, actually highlight our agent bosses on every team call. Who's using the tools the most? And it's not just about using Agentforce tools. I want to highlight in this experimentation velocity culture, right? How are we really driving a fast experimentation velocity to learn who is using the most tools? What was a failure? What's not working? So that we are our own best example, our own customer zero of learning failures, successes on these platforms and watching this transformation. And one last thing I'll put on that, because you said, hey, what's changing, right? And so to summarize, it's from just being a tool to actually helping us unlock goals, not just driving productivity and efficiency, but growth AI, workloads we couldn't even get to before. And the other thing I would highlight there is, we talked about Agent Boss, is I get asked the question a lot, like, is software dead? And I smile on that because, of course, we're getting asked that question. And it's actually paradoxical. I think it's only further and further more alive. And here's why. Historically, it's been this static system of record. And as you start thinking of it as this dynamic system of intelligence that's unlocking some of the use cases I've already given you, I've seen our win rate improve 11% since using sales agents. I've seen our sales velocity improve 36% since using these agents into our processes, that I'm only in these tools more, not less. And so do I think there's a seismic shift in the workflows and how they're happening? Yes. Do I think there's a seismic shift in software? Yes. Do I think it's only going to continue to extract more value? Yes. And that's shown in our recent Q3 results for Agentforce, growing 330%, now over a 500 million ARR. And we just launched just over a year ago. So we're seeing it in the market, and the facts, the proof is in the data.
Amazing. I've learned a new term today, agent bosses.
Be an
So
agent boss, Ramesh. We all got to be agent bosses.
I agree, and I thanks for enlightening me on that concept, and the way you put forth those examples really helped understand the concept, and then how you applied that, how you're making your teams use some of that. Now, one of the things with agents, Kaylin, also has been the fact that I know a lot of agents are getting created in customer landscapes, in customer environments.
Mm-hmm.
But the agents, as we all know, are only as smart as the underlying data that
Yeah.
is being supplied to these agents. And for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, the data solve has remained an open subject of discussion to certain level, certain degrees of success, to certain degrees of failure in obtaining that unified and trustworthy data that can be supplied to these agents. And
Mm-hmm.
all that probably also stemming from the fact that a lot of content sitting in the enterprises is also content that's unstructured, and hence hidden from the in the past, the ability to consume that and then make that data available to these agents. So I wanted your thinking in terms of where do you see this? How is the solve for data, and how are we going to make agents much more accurate and much more efficient, much more smarter in the process of solving for data as well?
Yeah, we all know what it's like as users of AI tools and just consumers of these platforms. We don't have much patience, right, Ramesh? Like, if you ask a question and you get poor data back, you're done. You move on to the next and you think that was not valuable to me. And so having a trusted data foundation is imperative for the success that we are delivering. And that's why when you look at my current role in the teams we're building are not just Agentforce, it is Agentforce and Data 360. And one of the most common challenges, not one of the most, like the most common challenge we see globally, is that data fragmentation. And that if you are asking an agent a question, there are pockets of data across our customers that are in the front office, middle office, back office. Think of a customer like FedEx. You might want to know real-time shipping information. Well, that data might happen to be sitting in Snowflake or Databricks. And when we think of Data 360, it's solving that fragmentation problem with governments and based on the permissions that that end user has access to see, but to surface up wherever that data is sitting into the flow of work, into the applications where employees are doing their work every day, and ground agents on that data. So one, it's how do you just unify and harmonize all of these fragmented data sources? And I think a common misperception was that Data 360 was trying to be an actual data lake or data warehouse. That's not the case. We want to augment what our customers have spent money investing in, but just bring it into the flow of work, into the applications where our customers are working every day. Even if that's Slack is a really powerful UI that we're seeing agents come to life. So there's one, how do you solve this data fragmentation issue? But then the second is if you look at our own customer zero, we put Agentforce right on our customer support website, right? If you go into Salesforce or help.salesforce.com, it is an Agentforce conversational UI right there to ask questions. Guess how many knowledge articles we had? Oh, nearly 1 million. We had 700 plus thousand different knowledge articles. So you think, one, it's bring the data together, but then two, how do you make sure you're surfacing up the right data? Do you have conflicting articles? Are there things that we need to resolve? And so Data 360 is now helping with a lot of the knowledge management our customers are needing to make sure it is right. The third, which is critical, and we know this, is around context. If I'm asking a question versus you're asking a question, if we're in different functions, or say if I'm asking from a sales perspective or from a service perspective, the answer matters. And so what we've now built into Data 360 is addressing how you harmonize, how you govern, how you resolve conflicting data points. But then how do you start bringing this context engineering, this context intelligence? Another piece of that is all of the unstructured data you mentioned. So much of the gold, the value of our customers' data is sitting in, say, conversations in Slack or in unstructured documents. And so we have, through our Data 360 platform, now in our latest innovation, released unstructured RAG optimization, but also we've seen Slack as this critical thing. I can go into Slack, Ramesh, and say, follow up emails from all of my customer meetings this week. It knows my tone, it knows who I've met, it knows the conversations, it knows public channels I have access to see. It'll also look at the structured data of that customer, what it knows in CRM, and blend the most incredible, these are not generic, consumer, just go to Chat GPT and say, write an email for me. These are grounded in your company's conversations, in your unstructured data, into your company presentations, but also into all of your structured knowledge of when maybe their last case was open with you. Are they frustrated? What's the sentiment? So where we see Agentforce and Data 360 is really unlocking the full value of AI into the enterprise in a way that just a generic foundational model can't do. But it does all start, to your opening question, with trusted governed, reliable, unstructured, contextual data. And that is what our D360 platform, our Data 360 platform, is unlocking. What
Amazing.
are you? I mean, that was a long answer for me, Ramesh. What are you seeing? You're rolling this out at BlueVerse. Like, what are the things that you're running into, challenges? Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. I think I need to admit the way you brought those different concepts together in the form of data fragmentation, unstructured context of the enterprise, and your ability to stitch those pieces together, phenomenal. And it makes sense why Agent Force and Data 360 is together, because they go hand in glove. And
Like
in terms
peanut
of
butter
our
and chocolate or peanut butter and jelly. Yes.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And in our experience, Kaylin, one of the things that we've seen is that, and I know there is this talk of AGI, artificial general intelligence or human like intelligence, and that we're probably 3 to 5 years away from getting there. While AGI is good, our belief is that what you need in an enterprise context might be slightly different, may not necessarily be AGI, but
Mhm.
what you need is what we call internally at LTI Mindtree OGI,
Mhm.
organizational general intelligence. And
Mhm.
hence, how do you make the systems more intelligent in the context of the customer's environment? And
Mhm.
our ability to solve for that OGI is backed by a variety of things that we bring together. You spoke about how you're bringing data from these different sources in,
Mhm.
but we're also talking something similar. We talk about a connector hub that helps me bring this content from a variety of applications to content that is both structured, unstructured, and my ability then to build some form of correlation amongst them so that when there is a query being raised, I'm able to quickly build a pattern, and then from the knowledge graph, pick information that I can feed back, making the entire process in that sense that much more smarter and intelligent. Because like you rightly said earlier, if you're not able to feed the end user with right information, the chances that he or she is going to again come back and use the agent are very limited. So we're trying to solve on the same lines of what Salesforce is doing, Kellen,
Mhm.
of trying to bring in this concept of OGI, of an organizational general intelligence that will make these agents much more smart, intelligent.
It's such a great point, Ramesh, and I'll share a customer story without sharing their name because I don't without permission. Will anonymize it. But I was at a customer dinner recently, and I was sitting next to a well-known CIO, and he said, we've got this multi-million dollar contract. I'm meeting with Sam Altman. I've got OpenAI. I'm doing all of this great work. I think it was them, and it was either Databricks or Snowflake. I'm like, that's so cool because we are a huge user of OpenAI ourselves and Snowflake and Databricks. I said, let me see how your sales agents are coming to life. So we called it Agent Force Roulette around the table. We pulled out our cell phones, Ramesh. I'm like, let me see. Can you pull it up on your phone and just show me how they're using it in the flow of work? And he kind of smiled and he's like, why are you asking me this? And I said, well, let me show you what it looks like when you truly unlock it into the applications that have both the structured and unstructured. To your point of OGI, how
Yeah.
is your organization going to use it? With the conversations, the channels, all of this context is long term memory. And I started asking him a question about him, the CIO I was meeting with. I said, tell me about this CIO, our history, the last case, what happened in CRM, when is their renewal up? And I started asking our sales agent just right there on the spot. And we called it roulette because we all know these are still probabilistic technologies. And he looked at me. His mouth kind of dropped open. He said, you're right. Like, we're going to continue to have this great relationship with our data warehouses, with these foundational models, but really unlocking them into the workflows, the structured, the unstructured, all of this context indexing we talk about was the big value unlock for the business. Now they're a big Agent Force customer. And there's this realization that consumer AI is not enough. A foundational model is not enough to truly unlock OGI like you talk about. It's embedding it into the applications and all of the workflows that our customers have built out over, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their company. And it's bringing AI into that unlocks the full value.
Agree with you, Kaylin. And it's similar on the similar lines. A topic of interest that I wanted to pick up with you is the topic of integration. I know Salesforce has a powerful integration tool in their landscapes. MuleSoft is the offering. And what has happened is very interesting, Kellen. While in the last 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, 35 to 40 different LLM models got launched,
Yeah.
and each model claiming that they are much more superior than the others, and some of them claiming the PhD level, etc., creating a lot of confusion in the minds of the customers as to if there are so many models. And to that extent, in a week, there were five different LLM models that got launched.
Mhm.
While there is a lot of that happening at a much faster pace on the LLM model space, one thing where we've seen more and more companies move towards is standardization, and standardization of the likes of A2A, MCP, thereby giving confidence to customers that yes, there seems to be a specification around which now the platform vendors are aligning to, and MuleSoft plays a significant role in some of that as well. Salesforce has also been a proponent of some of these open standards and specifications. So I wanted to hear from you, Kellen, in terms of how do you see this space evolve, and MuleSoft is an important player in the Salesforce ecosystem. How do you see the MCP A2A thing, and then how do you see Salesforce playing into some of that from a standardization so that it helps customers?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think of a year ago, the conversations were more focused on specific use cases or an AI tool. Now there is not a single conversation that is not talking about the broader system, orchestration, these common protocols you talk about, with which Salesforce is a big part of both MCP as well as A to A, incorporating that in our products for our customers to unlock, which has been a whole piece of this conversation, but the broader ecosystem, right? The whole system. And when we think about the integration layer, it's really this evolution that we're seeing from it's kind of simply moving data before, even if it was helping pull it in and activate an insight, now turning it into the action fabric. And we see this as the action fabric for the entire agentic enterprise that our customers are working to unlock. And it's about giving agents not just the tools, but the full system to maximize their value. And we talked about our opening point of goal orchestration. And I do believe standards are going to continue to emerge, which are exciting. They're fundamental in the role of this integration layer, and specifically through MuleSoft has shifted to supporting agents, I'd say, in two critical ways. And the first I would say is this real-time operational awareness that agents can't collaborate or act effectively on stale data. And so when we look at MuleSoft, how that surfaces live operational signals in real time, say like we had mentioned with FedEx, inventory changes, order statuses, shipment delays, really giving agents a real-time view of what's happening and being able to drive action back into it. And then the second thing I would say is the secure execution across these various platforms. So it's not enough for an agent to just know something. It must be able to do something, right? It's one thing to surface an insight, but how do we turn that into this action fabric? And MuleSoft providing that secure, governed connectivity into ERP, finance, supply chain, all the different fragmented data sources we talk about, now allowing agents to trigger complex workflows and execute tasks across the enterprise. And that's where the value gets unlocked, right? Is across the broader system. So as we look at this broader ecosystem and the horizontal processes across these different data sources, we view Informatica, Data 360, which we talked about, providing this meaning in the context, the brain, and MuleSoft is providing the connectivity and the APIs, the hands that are allowed to actually take the action across these data sources. And it's this combination, which is why we believe we are seeing now what was 2 quarters ago, 60% more agents going into production. This last quarter in our earnings, now 70% more. We've got that whole tech stack, both the brains and the hands to actually execute the action and turn these into valuable agents for our customers. So we're excited about the entire integrated tech stack as the differentiation for Salesforce holistically.
Thank you very much. If we can just ask a follow-up question, Kaylin, on
Yeah,
that, because you mentioned 60 percentage quarter on
yeah.
quarter increase in terms of some of these agents moving from pilots to production.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said that number is probably 70 percentage now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing are the best practices to some of the patterns that are emerging there
Mm-hmm.
that you can share with our viewers, listeners, in terms of how they can undertake these
Mm-hmm.
journeys, but also looking at how they can make these journeys successful. So if that's
Yeah,
some learnings.
there's one I call the accordion principle, Ramesh. And I'm a runner, so I do long distance running. And I think to myself in a lot of customer conversations, when I go train for a marathon, I don't try to do 26 miles on my first run. It's start with mile 1, mile 2, mile 3. And so when I think of the accordion principle, it is a big agentic enterprise transformation vision, CEO, top down, bottoms up vision. But where we see our customers having success is then to pull it in like an accordion, big vision, pull it in, start with something that might be a level 1 maturity agent. It might be simple FAQ knowledge management on your website, not groundbreaking and similar to what bots were doing, but it at least allows the customers to start learning and then advancing in their maturity to across multiple domains into proactive out of react or into reactive or proactive action instead of just reactive, driving autonomous automation. But it does start with starting with something on this agentic maturity model and then expanding it back out into the value it unlocks. And we had to do that ourselves as customer zero, simple knowledge management, then started turning into, okay, now it can take reactive action. Now it can take autonomous action. But our customers that are seeing value are starting with, let's just start, but start. Learn, iterate, expand, scale, right? We've already talked about the data importance, so that is another key pattern. 1, accordion principle. 2, absolutely getting the data right. And then 3, bringing it into the applications where people are already doing their work. Change management is far harder if you're trying to drive all new tools and systems instead of right in Slack where I'm working every day, I now have agents available to me. Or in Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, it's bringing it into the flow of work and removing friction.
Amazing. And I have to admit that, well, I've done a variety of these podcasts before. I've never come across a leader who could talk the entire spectrum, starting with the digital employee, going into data, from that to how do you make these pilots move into production, but how do you also ensure that they become successful, to bringing in the glue, which is the integration layer, talk about that. So a big thank you, Kaylin, to you for being part of this podcast, the vast experience that you have in this agentic AI space, and sharing that with our viewers, listeners. I can't thank you more. So, big thank you to you once again, Kaylin.
Thank you, Ramesh. I've loved the conversation and let's keep it going.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.